Welcome to the WTIM Morning Show. I'm Avery Cooper, your host. Your stream brought to you by Landmark of Taylorville. You'll always do better with Landmark and People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first. You'll find the streams on the TaylorvilleDailyNews.com Facebook or on YouTube at WTIM TV. Christian County Sheriff's Office in studio right now. That includes Chief Deputy Jim Baker. Welcome back. And also we have 911 Director Amy Toberman. Great to have you here, Amy.
Thank you.
So it is... Let's see. It's a special month this month, Jim. Tell me what month it is.
Yes. So the Sheriff's Office is able to recognize our dispatchers. It's National Public Safety Telecommunication Week. That was recognized April 9th through the 15th. We had the opportunity. It's what we would consider our non-sworn personnel. And it gave us the opportunity to acknowledge and thank them for all their hard work and efforts that they go through on a daily basis, answering the phone when the citizens call. The sheriff, whether that's calling 911 or calls for service for the sheriff's office.
Amy, how long have you been with the sheriff's office?
About 10 years.
10 years. And how long have you been 911 director?
2 years.
2 years. Okay. Were you a dispatcher the 8 years leading up to that?
Yeah, off and on for 8 years.
Off and on for 8 years. Well, what do you do as director of 911?
In our county, the director wears quite a few different hats. We do for 911, we have Christian County and Shelby County. And then I'm also over the sheriff's dispatchers as well for the county side. So I do our budget, payroll, hiring, scheduling. I do have a TC supervisor, so she kind of helps me as well. But other than that, it is just me. Baker helps out with the other stuff too.
Yeah, we split a dynamic that's 50-50. So you have four at the time, you have 4 employees that are not 911 and 4 that are county. So anything we do, whether it's budget or payroll, it's split between the sheriff's office and 911.
From your perspective, Amy, if you could characterize the job of a dispatcher, how would you?
Honestly, that's kind of hard just because they do so much. I would say one of the biggest things, you have to have a heart for it, obviously, because nobody calls 911 on a good day. So you're taking hard calls. You have to be able to multitask. You're looking at about 8 different screens and probably double that as far as applications, trying to map things. So they're hardworking, they're dedicated, they multitask. They kind of do it all. They're definitely the glue that kind of starts the process, and then they get the guys what they need. They get the responders what they need to be successful in the field. So
what can you say about your dispatcher staff?
They're incredible. We've been short for a long time, pretty much the entire time I've been there. We've had people come and go, retire. Like I said, it is a job that you have to have a heart in. So it's not something you just pick up and you love, whether you're good at. You have to work at it and you got to continue to improve. So they've kind of rode the waves as far as staffing has gone. So we have a lot of people that work 16 after 16-hour days, and they come to work and they don't complain and they do their job and they do it well. So we have a very tight knit, especially for the amount of area that we cover. We have a tight knit group and they do incredible.
What kind of skills do you feel are required for a good dispatcher?
I would say multitasking is at the very top, just because they are doing so many different things. As far as even on the 911 side, they can have like 3 different departments talking to them all at the same time, going through the headset at once. And a lot of the outside people don't understand that all of that's coming in at once. So I'd say if you're thinking about the utmost important skill, I would say multitasking and being able to roll with the punches.
Jim, what can you say about the 911 department?
Well, I would say, first of all, once they get that experience, for us for the deputies working the road, the skills that the dispatchers have to filter calls and oftentimes determine whether it's actually a police call and calls for service. And they're the first ones to decide or to make that determination whether or not we're going to respond to a call, or if it's something that's more of a civil issue that they're, they do a really good job about filtering those calls. The second thing is I see that the public, the dispatchers do a great job when it comes to, I would say, calming the caller down. A lot of times what they can expect when they call is not what you would anticipate. So when you're at a high stress situation and you're just wanting that police or EMS service, it's hard to get that caller to understand that it's like, look, we're going to ask your phone number more than once. We're going to ask your location. We're going to make sure we have all the information right. and they're doing all that while listening to somebody that's really amped up and doesn't understand. We're doing this in case there's a disconnect for the call, things of that nature. So I think really for us, like Amy said, it's our first line. It's the starting glue to the foundation to get the service out to the public.
Well, I'm glad you brought up just the amount of patience it takes for a dispatcher and how they have to calm a lot of callers down. And because I wanted to ask Amy, when you get a call, it doesn't have to be frantic, but you know what I mean? When you get any call, what's the first thing, the most important thing for a dispatcher to do?
The very first thing is they're getting the address. They're verifying the address so that we know where to send them. And then the next thing they're going to ask you is what your phone number is in case you hang up or for some reason you have a bad connection. They have to call you back so they know how to get a hold of you. And then they're going to ask you what's going on. And those are the first three things immediately that you're going to hear before they really even allow the caller to kind of talk. They're going to take control of that call and ask those things. And then from there, they'll shunt to a protocol and ask more questions to help determine A, what first responders need that are going, and B, is there anything that as dispatchers we need to help you start that needs done before they arrive? Control the bleeding, like a lot of CPR, pregnancy
walking
stuff,
into delivering a baby,
yeah,
all those things before we can get there.
Yeah.
And I suppose when it comes to calming someone down, what are some of the strategies that a dispatcher often takes to create an effective communicative call?
Yeah. Repetitive persistence is what they teach us a lot in our training. You have to stay calm, obviously, because if you just keep amping up, it just keeps escalating. But repetitive persistence, I need you to answer this question. And it's okay. We teach them a lot that it's okay to acknowledge that this is not a great situation and that they shouldn't be calm, right? That's okay to acknowledge that. And then a lot of times we tell them we have to get this information to know how to best help you and to get help there. And so that they know what they need to take with them to help you.
Also here really quick, prom is coming up here pretty soon as well. And I understand that the chief deputy, Jim Baker, would like to highlight that and some safety as well. We want everyone to stay safe this prom season, right?
Yes. Yeah. So in preparation of that, we're actually doing a mock simulation of a crash for alcohol related. We all know that, that's a big drive for our teens and the safety of that. So there'll be a mock crash performed tomorrow at the Morrisville School District to basically emphasize what the outcome of alcohol and teen driving would result in. With that, I'd like to remind parents, I always say, I'm sure you remember your prom. Although a lot of things have changed, a lot of things have not. You still have peer pressure for alcohol, drugs, things of that nature, and you hope that you can do your best. And I always say, plan for the worst, hope for the best. And in that case, I think it's imperative that the parents sit down with their students, their kids, and talk about what's our contingency plan. That even though you're with friends and you feel peer pressure, let's have a plan in place to call for that ride, and here's our plan if it goes a different direction. So, but that's the biggest thing for preparation, is plan for it ahead of time.
When parents sit down to talk to their students and their kids, what would you advise them to talk to them specifically about? Or another way to ask that question is, how would you advise parents start that conversation?
Well, I think first of all, I think the parents, the approach that would take is to reassure them that their number one concern is their safety. And then maybe a life history story as to when they remember or they know of an instance, like, you might find yourself, even though you're not a habitual, that you don't get to the opportunity to drink, you can do it in a nature that promotes that they've never had a problem with drugs or alcohol in the past, or they've never experienced with it, but explain that this would be a key time that, in something like a party, that you're going to have those bad apples show up to introduce those options and be prepared for it.
From a dispatcher's office standpoint, Amy, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay. Back in a moment, we're with Christian County Sheriff's Office. Includes Chief Deputy Jim Baker and 911 Director Amy Toberman here on the WTIM Morning Show. More from them right after this here on WTIM, your information station.
WTIM. Your information station, WTIM.
It's the WTIM Morning Show. I'm Avery Cooper. Your stream brought to you by Landmark of Taylorville. You'll always do better with Landmark and People's Bank and Trust. They put people first. Christian County Sheriff's Office, including Chief Deputy Jim Baker and 911 Director Amy Toberman in studio right now. And before going to break, we talked a little bit about problem safety and also 911 dispatching. And there was one other thing that you wanted to mention, Jim, about if when you call 911, what are some important things to provide the dispatcher?
Yeah. So obviously you're going to be giving that address. And I would say from an operation standpoint for the deputies or EMS to respond to your residents, it's imperative that I know in the past sheriffs talked about it, but one of the first things beyond the phone call is being prepared there again ahead of time by having your address fixed to your mailbox or the residence. That helps us find the location. A lot of times we don't think about that, but out in the middle of a rural area, especially a mailbox number, it's quick. You want them there fast. And the easiest way to do that is for us to roll up and be able to see that rural address on your mailbox.
Amy, how often do you, as or a director of 911, hear about instances where an address wasn't clearly marked on the residence?
I don't know as far as clearly marked, but I will say the majority of our callers don't always know where they're at. or what the address exactly is, we rely on mapping a lot. So like you said, it would definitely help as far as first responders response time.
Right. The majority of calls, I'd imagine, don't happen at your physical house. They
Correct.
happen while you're out and about and you're trying to see where everyone else is or where you are. And if there's not a clearly marked address anywhere nearby, that'll make it really hard for the person who's not familiar with the area.
Correct. Yes.
Glad I could summarize that up pretty quickly. Now let's shift gears a little bit here. Question for Jim Baker. I understand now the Christian County Sheriff's Office requested an inspection of the jail from the fire department. I guess, why did you request that inspection?
Yeah, so that was done by the sheriff. We had done that back in 2020 as well, to see what we could do for public safety measures. And that was done in 2020. And recently we asked for another one, and it was in preparation. There's been some discussion between the sheriff and the county board about doing a renovation for the much needed structure or utilities of the building. And we requested Taylorville Fire Department to do a walkthrough inspection. So that way any renovations were done to hopefully meet future or current codes by the fire department.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you were requesting it, and by you, I mean as sheriff's office as a whole. I don't necessarily mean you, Mr. Baker, but you were requesting it aware that there were some issues and you wanted to be able to document those.
Yeah, I would say it's you would do an inspection to make sure, just like if you do any renovation, there's certain requirements that if we do renovations in the jail, we're mandated to reach out to the detention and training standards to make sure that we're up to those codes for renovations. Same way the fire department. I give you the best example I could say is, if we're going to change the interior structure of the building, you want to make sure the fire department says, hey, by code, you have to have a carbon monoxide detector within so many feet of your, your water heater, or things of that nature. That was part of the request of meeting the required.
Excellent. Yeah. And briefly here, we don't have time to get into all of the issues facing the jail, but what were some of the big ones, if you would? Yeah.
So there are some that the county board and the sheriff are working together on. But some of the things that we encountered was basically, it was things like extension cords or power strips that, in general, probably just like the jail, just like your home, we've got multiple new electronics that require a lot of plugins. There was things of that nature. Storage, we've ran out of some room, so there was higher storage shelves up closer to the ceiling that was, causing some issues there. And there again, it was pointed out where we could better improve our carbon monoxide detector locations. We had a discussion, and a lot of these were immediately addressed. Things like how you store your flammable fuels. We've since purchased a cabinet to store things of flammables. So it was a lot of the small stuff like that. Some of them are things that were fixed, within weeks. The other things, and since the fire department's come back and, checked up on those things. So those were it. Some of the others are more exits and capacity things that is just like everything else.
And we've talked about capacity with the sheriff before, and how the population of the jail is pretty big compared to what it was designed for.
Yes.
That's kind of along the lines of what I'm sure the sheriff is talking to the county board about.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he was working with the county board in hopes. The county board's been over and toured the jail, things like that, in order to do some infrastructure renovations, and
right.
that's part of this the inspection.
All right. Anything else that you'd like to include about the county or the sheriff's office plan for improvements?
No, I know like I said, the last couple meetings, there's work on several of the county board members, the meetings. It seems to be a continual progress forward in getting some of those renovations done. The only thing aside from that, to wrap up, sheriff's office is really excited to bring him on a new deputy that graduates from the academy on Friday the 28th. That'll get us finally back up to full staff. Like Amy said, all the departments have been running short. So we're excited to get him out and get him trained and be available to provide those services at a full staffing level.
It's Chief Deputy Jim Baker. He's here with 911 Director Amy Toberman. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.